Dear Dhamma friends and all of the venerable bhikshus and bhikshunis and Rinpoches and particularly Tenzin Rinpoche as well, I once again extend my gratitude in the form of Pacha Hao. It's very good to see many of you here. Throughout the years we have met many times. I always see our bond, not just our karmic bonds, bond of karma, growing strong, but particularly our bond of dharma going strong. Of course, I do very much wish that we had met under better circumstances, meaning that because of the parinirvana and the demise of our late Rinpoche, therefore for those of us who are struck by human conditions, struck by emotions, we feel very much affected. But what we do have to realize is that the blessings, the aspirations, they are timeless, and if we are able to do that, then we can transcend our human conditions of emotions. So I pray and I wish for everyone that you'll be able to achieve that. The way we should try to go about our life is actually very simple, particularly if we have some influence of the Buddha Dharma. Then, like I said right now, it can be quite simple. Of course, the question is what kind of influence. To summarize the influences that I'm talking about are the extremely basic teachings that exist in the Buddha Dharma. Even the basic teachings, they are various, there are many, of course. And so just from the list of the basic teachings, it's also difficult to summarize also. The points or the subjects, the basic points and the basic subjects, the ones that I'm talking about are the ones that comes very obvious to us, that comes, that strikes, very obvious to us. Meaning, as simple as the impermanence. It's obvious and it's in some ways basic because it's something that we see every day. One doesn't have to think too hard to realize that this is very apparent. The following, such as causality or law of karma, and the nature of disturbed state of mind and so on. Actually, I was saying fault of samsara, like the basic four thoughts. It is taught so frequently, it is written in the teachings, introduction teachings so frequently that it seems extremely basic to us. But to me, such as these basic thoughts can be considered as deep and vast. That is, if we are able to appreciate its influence. So that kind of influence, if you have that kind of influence, then it would be quite simple in terms of how to go about one's life. Such as the everyday experience, such as the change or impermanence, is something that you can connect with your real life and then the Buddha Dharma that we hear about all the time. If you reflect on these points, then the real change, a real impermanence that we experience every day, and then the impermanence that is talking about, that is taught in Buddha Dharma, in spirituality, somehow you will see that it's not different, it's the same. Then it gives room to also understand about emptiness or blessing, And most importantly, what I was trying to say is that then it becomes easier to have some direction, to have some view on how to go about life, such as the law of karma. Of course, there are countless of laws that exist in our world, such as a law of starting from particular family, let's say, or in a school, then maybe one's community, and then maybe the state or the county, and then so on and so forth, to a point we have almost endless lines of, list of laws. They do exist, they are being implemented for a good cause. It is of course implemented to improve our life, but knowing our human condition, or how easily we can be affected by emotions, it's sometimes difficult to rely wholeheartedly in these laws. But that's also one of the many causes why it is difficult to somehow find a direction. Therefore, a karmic law is somehow a very helpful tool. And if you really think, maybe not too hard, but if you think just a little bit, then somehow we can have, almost an immediate confidence in this karmic law. Because in this case, unlike the other laws, there is no judge actually, meaning like an outer judge or an outer, let's say, punisher. But it is something that just by using your logic, you can already predict what's going to happen, or what has happened, or what is happening now. And you don't need a judge or a punisher to say it will be like this and it will be like that, or a punisher that is in the form of a demon or such. So it's extremely simple, and it's something that one can respect just by using logic. That's the kind of spirituality that our Buddha Shakyamuni taught. If you have that kind of influence, spiritual influence, then, as I said, we will know how to go about our life. Then it will make easier to somehow accept life. Meaning, it will not just make everything perfect and alright. It will not. It just makes things more clear, and therefore less confusion. And in that way, then we will be able to accept some of the biggest confusions of life, such as losing of someone very dear and precious in one's life. I'm sure everyone has either direct or indirect experience of losing someone special in one's life, and be it a friend, be it a family member, anyone, to a point where one almost dreams and wishes that one could reverse that, change it. So, and particularly, so if it's also someone to whom one has a spiritual connection, could be even more, let's say, emotional and more confusing. So then again, as I said, if we don't, neglect, or if you don't forget the Dharma, the practice, then it will make things less confusing. Like if it's a friend that we have lost, or if it's a family member that we have lost, if you look into their friends, their families, and backwards and backwards to the point of their ancestors and their ancestors, it's very apparent that impermanence is simply a part of life. There was no friend, or there was no ancestor or a family that never passed away. It's a journey that all of us have to go through. And now, if you look from a spiritual perspective also, we can go back to the very founding fathers or masters who have founded one's own or our own lineage. It's very apparent to us, it's very clear to us that all of them, from a worldly point of view, or from a point of view of life, of course they are not here, physically at all. But if we ask ourselves, the positive influences that one's friends and family members that they've had in one's life, if you really think carefully, then one can see that it's extremely, the influence is extremely present. And in the same way, also the influences, the positive influence, the positive marks, the positive guidance that has been left behind by then the spiritual guides or teachers, they are, if you really think carefully again, they are very much present. And so therefore, although the physical representation or manifestation, they are sort of from the beginning bound to change, it is inevitable. But as I said, teachings and guides, they live on, throughout, or they live timelessly. Timelessly meaning no matter what kind of forms of change that comes across. So if we are able to somehow develop that kind of view, develop that kind of perspective, then there is a way and there is room and space for less confusion. Meaning then one, particularly from a spiritual perspective, one doesn't have to feel lost, because the blessing lives on and it continuously generates, because the teachings and the blessings, they were from the beginning not conditioned by elements that has changing nature. So therefore it doesn't change, meaning it cannot, let's say, suddenly have an interruption. So if we feel the lost, if we feel confused, I would say that it is normal, because after all, at the moment we are very dependent on the human conditions. But at the same time, the ability to go beyond that, just like I said at the beginning of today's talk, that if we are able to somehow accept these spiritual influences, then we can go beyond our dependency on the human conditions, such as emotions. And then, as I said, we will have more room and space to reflect on the timeless blessings, meaning that blessings that, how to say, that does not change, that does not interrupt, that has no imbalance, that has no discrimination, meaning it's not affected, of course, by any kind of emotions or as simply as karma. It's not affected by karma at all. So, with your own knowledge of what you know about Buddha Dharma, and together with that, then with what your spiritual guides, meaning spiritual friends, spiritual how do I call it? Spiritual brothers and sisters, as well as then the rest, meaning then teachers and so on, even from also from myself as well, with whatever that we can interact. Interaction of exchange of Buddha Dharma, the knowledge of Buddha Dharma, meaning that with these experiences and knowledges, that we can somehow improve our understanding of these the changes of life, and also for that benefit, and then equally I'm also offering these quantings and teachings, and that it may be of help to your understanding of the Buddha Dharma. A benefit in terms of less confusion and more clarity in how to go about one's life. That, to summarize of what I said, from the past, the one thing that we can carry on, that we can carry ourselves, and that we can pass it on, is all the virtuous deeds, all the positive influences that we have gained, that we have understood. But beside that, if you look into the past, everyone has been affected by impermanence of life, meaning none of them are present physically anymore. And so if you look at ourselves, we are changing and we are bound to go down the same road. And again, what we can leave behind is all the virtuous deeds, virtuous speech, virtuous actions, thoughts that we have generated. That the future generations, when they look back, those are the things that they will remember. So therefore, if you're able to think in that way and keep reminding of that, those facts, then although it doesn't make everything all right, at least it makes things more clear. So in order to improve our wisdom, improve our improve on the clarity, then I think it's very fitting that today we are receiving the granting of Jinggang Sato. May it be of great benefit to all of you.